Good morning. Today we're going to be in the book of Lamentations. And as we go through this prayer, these 30 days of prayer, Lamentations means a lament. And it means this lament. A lament is crying out to God from very raw places. And yesterday we spoke about Jeremiah. Today, these lamentations, these laments that are built on top of each other, are this poetic way of crying out to God. Now, the book of Lamentations is quite small. It's actually hidden kind of right after the book of Jeremiah, and it's only 5 chapters in our English Bible. But one of the sad parts is actually because the Hebrew is so poetic, we miss some of that when it's translated to English. The raw emotion is there, the crying out from these vivid postures of just being depleted and overwhelmed and feeling like, where is God? And just feeling overwhelmed is present there. But in the poetic way, Lamentations begins in the same way we might start a poem, starting A, our first line starting with A, and then our second line being B, and our second line being C, or third line, and going all the way to A to Z or Z. In our English language, if we started a poem that way, that's the similar structure of each chapter actually in the book of Lamentations. They begin with Aleph, and they go through all the way through the alphabet till Tav, the very last letter of the alphabet, and it walks through, and it's poetically crafted so you can hear it, and not only hear it but feel the passion behind it. This is written around the time when Jerusalem has fallen. Jeremiah is experiencing this. He's watched his nation kind of crumble, and he's been crying out to return to God, and they're not doing it. No one's doing it. And he's trying to, and he actually was a prisoner. We talked about this yesterday, and actually, and he saw the city burned. And I'm standing here actually at a local hotel, and it burned not too long ago. And in the inside, it was gutted out, and there's actually a fence around it. You can't even get very close to it now, because I saw it while I was driving by. All the fire trucks are here. It was on fire, and now it's just gutted, and it's not even being able to use. Now they might turn back and try to restore it, perhaps, but Jeremiah watched Jerusalem burn, and there was no restoration of it. He saw his home be devastated and lost, and he's saying, in the midst of this, and the people were deported, only the poorest of the poor were left and able to actually, they gave some of the land to the poorest of the poor to stay there, and the rest of the high class and stuff, they took them and deported them hundreds of miles away to the capital of Babylon. And Jeremiah was left after all of this. And what do? Well, you lament. You lament because it's hard. You lament because these are real things happening, and these are the real emotions that you're feeling and the real situations you are in. And yet, in the midst of this very heavy-hearted book, we find in the very center, poetically woven together within this text of suffering and hardship, these very powerful words off of the prayer lips of Jeremiah. He begins, if I remember here, verse 13, actually, in chapter 3, you can hear the pain. He says, he pierced my heart with arrows from a quiver. I became a laughing stock of all my people. They mock me, and they sing songs all day long about me. He's filled me with bitter herbs and salted me with gall. He's broken my teeth with gravel. He's trampled me in the dust. I've been deprived of peace. I've forgotten what prosperity is. So I say, my splendor is gone, and all that I have hoped for from the Lord. I remember my affliction and my wandering and the bitterness and the gall. I well remember, my soul is downcast within me. And then he says this in verse 21 of chapter 3, the very middle. Yet this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions are never fail. They're new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. I say to myself, the Lord is my portion, therefore I will wait for him. The Lord is good to those who hope is in him, to the one who seeks God. It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. It is good for a man to bear the yoke while he is young. Let him sit alone in silence, for the Lord has laid it on him. Let him bury his face in the dust. There may yet be hope. Let him offer his cheek to the one who would strike him, and let him be filled with disgrace. For men are not cast off by the Lord forever, Though he brings grief, he will show compassion. So great is his unfailing love, for he does not willingly bring affliction or grief to the children of men. You can hear Jeremiah wrestling with the hardships and then also holding in this very hard time a correct image of God through the hardship. This August, my mother-in-law, whom I love very much, in California, lost her home to a wildfire. A home that she'd been in over 20 years, lost almost everything with that. And the way in which she responded, I've asked for permission to share this. She responded with a sense of Lamentations chapter 3 in the middle. There was hardships, it was hard, but she still leaned into the goodness of God, looked for the new mercies that were meeting her, even as she's in the midst of we were dealing with COVID, and then she's moved to a hotel for months and months, and then she's finally gotten to a place, and so you're transitioning and moving, and in the midst of those things, those hardships, our image of God and even our prayers to God are revealed oftentimes and shaped. And although those were hard things and there were tears and there's hardship, there was also hope, new hope. I wonder today, and if you are going through a hardship and you felt like things have been abandoned, you might lean into God, knowing that you can just cry out to God with everything you have and call the situation what it is, but also know, as the psalmist, as he says, because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. Verse 23, they are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. As you pray today, I want to encourage you to know that the one who is faithful is hearing our prayer, even in the midst of the hardships that we might find. And I hope that you can find hope today, no matter where you're finding yourself. We'll see you tomorrow morning.